It's somewhere in the future. You're in a race where the roads shift and shimmer, but you think you've mastered their changing ways. It's time for new challenges. Welcome to Reality Shift Deluxe Edition. Race, hack, win. Hey everyone, welcome to Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Alan.
And I'm Karen.
And today we're going to talk about Reality Shift Deluxe by Apollo Games, a division of one of my favorite publishers, Academy Games.
The original Reality Shift is a sci-fi racing game for 2 to 4 players. Its uniqueness, its board or racetrack is comprised of cubes that move and shift as players use their magnetic light bikes to race along the course.
The goal of the original game is simple. Be the first light bike across the finish line. Sounds easy enough, but the continually shifting race course could spell disaster for you anytime.
The standard version is a fun game, but Apollo Games has since released this upgraded edition, Reality Shift Deluxe. Now Kevin has done a great job explaining how the standard game works in an earlier video, so we're not going to go through all that. We're just going to assume you already know the basics. Instead, we're going to tell you about some of the expansions this newer edition has.
The components for this version include all of the pieces from the original version, plus a double-sided grid board, 1 white light bike and a summary card, 3 deluxe track cubes, 18 power-up cards, and 21 power cube counters.
The game board that's included is dual-sided. The empty side is just a grid. It doesn't alter gameplay and could be used in a standard Reality Shift game. The alternate side, known as the path side, has paths and portals that light bikes may move onto and use for travel.
The first new item I want to point out is the white race bike. This allows a 5th player to join the race, but there are some special rules for anyone using it. Just as in the standard game, the white player receives protection when his bike is on a face-up side of his own color, which is white. However, there are twice as many white faces on the cubes, so the racer will have to choose one of 3 penalties to be restricted by the entire race, either being unable to activate a checkpoint, using slower speed, which is basically rolling the speed die twice and using the lower number, or having an action card hand limit that's 1 fewer than the other players.
There are 3 new track cubes that add some challenges and strategies to this edition. After the initial setup, in reverse player turn order, racers can decide whether to add one of these cubes to the existing track or to replace any of the cubes already on the board.
First, there's the white hole cube. Because it's white, any color action card can move it, but it has no paths on it anywhere, so moving onto this cube will instantly destroy your bike. Strategy tip, keep your light bike far away from this trap.
Second, there's the portal cube. Enter one of the portals on this cube and it will instantly transport you to any portal on another side of the cube, where you then can continue on with your movement. It's a nice shortcut that doesn't cost any movement spaces, but be warned, if there aren't any other portals available to exit, you've just destroyed your light bike. One benefit if you choose to use the path side of the game board, you can move back and forth between the cube portals and the path board portals, which gives you a lot more flexibility.
The third and final deluxe track cube is the Vortex Cube. This one can seem a little confusing, but it's really not that complicated. When you move onto the Vortex Cube, your bike is sucked around in a counterclockwise direction until it comes to the first available exit. If that exit pulls you down onto another side of the cube, that's fine. Just keep following the arrows until you come to the first exit that can deposit you onto another cube's face. Within the Vortex, movement doesn't cost a thing, so it can be a good way to navigate. But I do recommend making sure you know where you'll exit before you hop on.
Also included in this deluxe edition are 18 power-up cards. If you decide to play with these cards, you can collect one anytime you pass over a checkpoint space and choose not to activate it. These cards add great little twists to the rules, such as switching places with other racers or escaping destruction when you should be crushed.
The deluxe edition also has 2 new game mode options that players can try. In battle mode, each player is given 4 power cube counters and will try to capture other players' counters by using power-up cards or crushing them with a cube. Once someone has lost his or her last counter, the game is over, and whoever has captured the most power cube counters wins.
In power mode, Players are racing from checkpoint to checkpoint to collect numbered power cube counters. Each checkpoint has a limited quantity available, and the first person to collect power cube counters from 4 different checkpoints wins.
The Deluxe Edition rulebook also contains 11 deluxe track setups with suggested special rules for each one.
And if you already have the standard game, it includes an additional 8 super track ideas and rule suggestions for ways to combine the cubes from both games to set up an epic race.
The standard edition of Reality Shift is a light, chaotic race to the finish. The Deluxe Edition, though still pretty light, offers more replayability through all the expansions that players can choose to add to the game. I tend to like beefier strategy games, but it still provided some enjoyable entertainment. Our boys, on the other hand, love this game. They spent most of the time trying to shift the cubes, crushing mom and dad, all the while trying to get to the finish line first.
I agree. Reality Shift doesn't offer much in the line of strategy. You can try to plan ahead, but the board is changing too much to have a firm idea in place. And who you're playing with can also have a big effect on how the game plays out. I tend to be more of a let me do what I can to better my position in the game kind of person. But as Alan said, our boys are not. They can take too much pleasure in crushing the competition. In fact, during the most recent game we played, they destroyed my light bike after both my first and second turns. Yet, despite that, because we were using both the path board and the portal cube, I was able to strategize a little and get decently close to the finish line before the game ended.
One thing to keep in mind with this game is that because the track changes so much, there is a lot of downtime between turns. On his turn, a racer not only has to figure out what his best move would be on the new layout before him, he also has to consider how and when changing the layout could benefit him, and that can take time.
The positive side of that, though, is that it does allow for conversation to happen between the other players.
Yeah, and overall, the game doesn't take that long to play. Sometimes you may only get 2 or 3 turns, though sometimes you'll get a lot more. The box claims about 20 minutes, and on average, that is pretty accurate. Even with the different expansions, we found some games much shorter and some a little bit longer.
Here's my big bonus tip for you when you play. Use a Lazy Susan. If you place the game board on a Lazy Susan, players can simply rotate the board to view the cubes from all angles. It's so much easier to play if you're not having to walk and lean around other players while you're figuring out your next move.
So is Reality Shift Deluxe an improvement over the standard version? I would say yes.
Definitely. I personally really like the portal cube and have enjoyed trying to figure out how I could use that to get ahead.
So if you think you've mastered the standard edition or just up for a new racing challenge, give Reality Shift Deluxe Edition a spin. Your light bike awaits.
And I totally lost my spot. Where were we? Oh, okay, there we go. Sorry.
But you, oh boy, I read too fast.
That's okay.
I know. This will slow you down.
It's somewhere in the future.
Wait, stop.
Crush them.
Okay.
It's somewhere in the future.
Wait, give us a second to get
Come
settled.
on.
I'm not settled. Let me get
I'm the one
set.
talking, not you.
I know, but I have to get set. It's a nice shortcut that doesn't cost any movement spaces, but whoa, sorry. You're fine. It's a nice shortcut that doesn't cost any movement spaces, but be warned, if there aren't any other portables.
It's okay. We start it's again.
Portable toilets.
Right there.
Stop. Okay.